Hello, this is Reddithin, and welcome to NPL Minors Week 4, I believe? Yes, it is Week 4. Sorry, I have an excuse this time since I joined mid-season, so it's my Week 2, but it's technically Week 4. So anyway, Tynamos are 2-1, coming off a huge 5-0 victory against the North Carolina Tar Heels last week, and this week we are taking on Ace of Base 99 and the Anaheim Altarias. So, actually I'm just going to go right into the team here, because let's explain what Ace's team has got going on. So, pretty much with Ace's team, the Mega Latios kind of, destroyed me if I wasn't careful. So I was really scared of that, so I figured that the Hoopa-Unbound, was necessary in this matchup. However, if we look at what Ace has, he also has the Crocodile and the Sneasel. 2 Pursuit Trappers, and Hoopa does not like getting Pursuit Trapped. So I kind of got a really interesting set here. I actually got a Fizdef set, with enough speed to outspeed the, I don't even remember what the outspeed. I'm sorry, this battle was a while ago. I believe it was to outspeed the Golbat, I think it was, yeah. So yeah, this is a really interesting set, because it deals with his entire team pretty much. However, it also lets me 1v1 the Crocodile, which is really, really huge. So the Energy Ball, after taking Dark Pulse damage and everything, actually does OHKO the Crocodile, and depending on a spread, just it kills anyway. So of course the Dark Pulse hits the Latios, and I pretty much just got coverage for everything else. The Psychic, nice dual stab, hits everything that Dark Pulse doesn't, and then Thunderbolt is just there because it hits it lets me deal with the Azumarill better. How did I say Thunderbolt? The Energy Ball there because it lets me deal with the Crocodile and the Azumarill. So that's pretty nice. And then I just slapped a Nasty Plot on there, because if I'm able to get a Nasty Plot off, then he pretty much loses something, because this thing can this thing can even take a Flare Blitz from a Darm. This thing's pretty fat. So yeah, and with the Expert Belt, it's still able to do as much damage as I would really need it to anyway. So yeah, really interesting set here. But I mean, Hoopa's terrible, so you kind of gotta make with what you can. And also a little fun thing about this set is that if he decides to try to knock off with his Crocodile, then I lose my Expert Belt, and if it's Choice Scarf or something, then I end up stealing its Choice Scarf. So that could be potentially really cool if I can do that. So yeah, there's another cool little thing about this team. Yeah, that's it. This speed is to actually outspeed Thundurus if I have the Choice Scarf. So there we go, I remember. Next up is Gallade with the Bulk Up, Drain Punch, Ice Punch, and Leaf Blade. Max speed so I can speed top the Latios, and this thing actually, kind of does destroy him if I'm able to set up. Because of course this coverage hits his entire team. Bulk Up makes it so even if he's Scarfed Armanitan or something, he still can't, he still loses to me. So yeah, Drain Punch and Ice Punch is really all the coverage I need. I just threw Leaf Blade on there just for the Azumarill, but yeah, if I'm able to set up with this thing, then I really am in a good spot. So yeah, kind of Gallade and Hoopa are kind of my main things I built around with this team. However, to support them, I also have the Klefki with Reflect, Light Screen, Dazzling Gleam, and Heal Block. Reflect and Light Screen pretty self-explanatory. It lets Hoopa actually tank hits much, much easier. Lets Gallade tank hits much, much easier, so dual screens are pretty important for both of those. Dazzling Gleam is just so I could hit the Latios and the Crocodile. And then I actually have Heal Block on there. So I put Heal Block on there in case he's a Calm Mind Latios variant, so I can keep it from roosting, and I can eventually wear it down. The Golbat, I know that the Golbat's gonna try to come in and defog away my Stealth Rocks and everything. So if I can Heal Block that, because it comes in free on this thing every time, then I can keep it from recovering. So that could potentially be really huge. Also keeps the Tangrowth from doing stuff, and it actually just blocks Giga Drain, so even it makes a Rotom be able to switch in on Tangrowth potentially, which is really nice. And speaking of Rotom, this is an Expert Belt Rotom, max special attack, near max HP, just enough speed to outspeed the Golbat, and it's got Hydro Pump, Volt Switch, Signal Beam, and Pain Split. Signal Beam actually 2-hit KOs Tangrowth, and if he's Spit F, I believe. If he's AV, then it doesn't 2-hit KO, but this actually OHKOs most variants of Tangrowth, or not OHKOs, 2 KOs much variance to Tangrowth, which is really, really cool. If he's Spit F, it is a guaranteed 2 KO. If he's Fizz Def, then a combination of Hydro Pump and Signal Beam actually kills. So that's pretty neat. He actually just doesn't really have much that switches in on this thing. Like the Latios and the Tangrowth both take a ton from Signal Beam, and then the rest of his team actually just drops to a combination of Hydro Pump and Volt Switch. Then finally, I do have the Pain Split on there. I could have put the T-Bolt for the Golbat, but since I had the Heal Block on this thing, I could just switch into Rotom and then fire off Volt Switches, which is really nice. So I figured that the T-Bolt wasn't too necessary. I just wanted Pain Split on there because it lets me recover a bit more, and if like I'm really low on something and he like tries to bring in the Tangrowth, then I like Pain Split that, get all the way up like to like well over half, and then be able to take it out with a Signal Beam. So that could potentially be a nice little strategy. Next up is Yachi Berry, Garchomp with Earthquake, Dragon Claw, Stealth Rock, and Swords Dance. I really just needed this thing mainly for Stealth Rock actually. However, it does work otherwise. If I set up an SD, it lets me 1v1 the Golbat. It lets me 1v1 the Tangrowth. SD actually just helps me break down his walls that are going to try to switch it on this thing. And then it's also really nice because it can discourage the Golbat from the defogging, so I can keep up my rocks. And then Earthquake is just to, just hit stuff. And finally, we have the Shaman, Max Fizz Def with Seed Flare, Earth Power, Toxic, and Synthesis. This was my main check for the Crocodile, the Latios, or not the Latios, the Crocodile, the Metagross, and the Lucario, as well as the Azumarill. Like it can wall all of those. Because in the case that he is like a physical Lucario and he tries to like set up, that could be really, really bad. If he is the special, then Gallade can 1v1 that because it just eats up vacuum waves pretty much. But in the case, this set actually lets me make sure it doesn't just completely destroy me, because Earth Power hits it nice and hard, Seed Flare hits everything else nice and hard. And then I just got Toxic and Synthesis because you can't really go wrong with that. So yeah, that's the team. Let's go into the battle here as we look at what he brought. He brought mostly what I expected. I thought that he was going to bring the Tangrowth or the Golbat. I was really surprised to see neither. He actually decided to bring the Sneasel. So Sneasel was probably the main surprise to me. Everything else I knew had a decent matchup, but yeah, I was a bit surprised to see that. However, let's see how we decide to use it, because it actually does have a decent matchup. It just kind of walled by Klepke and everything. But yeah, so he's going to lead off with his Thundurus. I'm going to lead off with my Rotom. I knew whatever he wants to lead off with, Rotom can pretty much deal with. If he's like the Latios or something, I can switch into like Klepke and everything. So I knew that Rotom could take like one hit from like anything on this team. So he's going to lead off with Thundurus. I'm just going to fire off a Hydro Pump. If he decides to like stay in and like try to set up or something, he's going to take a huge amount of damage and get revenged. So I really just was not really afraid to just go for the Hydro Pump, as he's going to Volt Switch out into the Latios. Actually, no, did I? No, okay. No, I didn't predict this time. So yeah, I do go for the Hydro Pump. That's actually going to do a nice chunk of damage to the Latios. So I do not want to stay in on a Latios. So I do switch out into my Klepke because I can take anything from this thing, even if it's a Calm Mind variant. Like I said, I do have the Heal Block, so I can keep it from roosting up, and I can eventually revenge it with something else. So or just keep like wearing it down and everything. So I do go for the Reflect as he goes for the Earthquake. I knew there was a good chance he did have the Earthquake. If he did have like the HP Fire or something, that would have hurt. But I don't know. I figured that with all like the physical threats on his team, getting Reflect out now would be really, really nice. So I do get that up, as that Earthquake does not do nearly enough as you need to, as I do go for the Dazzling Gleam. It's a nice chunk of damage to the Thundurus as I do set up the Light Screen, and he Volt Switches out here into, actually main changes to normal speed. It goes into his Darm. So with the Darm in, I did have the Reflect up, but I kind of needed to make a switch here. So I kind of had two options here. Either he goes for a U-turn and I go into the Garchomp and he takes Rough Skid damage, or I go into the Rotom and I take a bit of damage that I don't really want to take, because Rotom is already down close to half. I don't really want to have it take some more damage. So I decided to actually go into the Garchomp here. I knew this thing could have Will-O-Wisp. I remember in a mock I had someone ran it, so I knew that it could potentially have it, but I didn't really care anyway, just because like Garchomp really didn't need, like, it could still do what it needs to do even if it was burned. So and if he decides to go that, then I get free rocks up. So I do just go into the Garchomp here. I really wanted to get those rocks up as soon as I could, as he does reveal he has a Will-O-Wisp. So I don't know what set this is at this point, but I do know that I can just get at my rocks here because it's not staying in. So goes into the Crocodile, gets the Intimidate off, but my rocks are up. So that's really cool at this point. So here I decide to go into the Shaman, I believe. Or no, I go into the Rotom, because Rotom with the Reflect Up can take anything from this thing. So now he has to switch out here as he goes into the Latios, and I'm just actually going to fire off a Signal Beam. The Crocodile was weak to Bug anyway, so there really was no reason not to go for that, because he was surely not going into his Thundurus there. So or his Lucario. So that's going to do a ton. So this thing has to roost or it just dies. So I do just keep clicking Signal Beam here. I'm willing to let my Rotom go down at this point. I just really want this Latios to be dead because it's my main threat to Gallade. So I do just keep clicking Signal Beam. So he does get confused here, which is a bit fortunate for him, but hey, he does break through. But so yeah, I'll just keep clicking Signal Beam. I know I can live any one hit from this thing, as he does go for the Dragon Pulse. I eat that up, and I'm able to Signal Beam to take it out. So the Latios is down, which is really, really good for Gallade at this point. So he's going to switch out into his Crocodile. I'm actually just going to let Rotom die here because I really have no reason to keep this thing alive at this point, as he knocks off my Expert Belt. So here I do go into the Shaman. I probably should have gone into the Gallade, admittedly. However, at that point, I didn't know if this thing was Scarfed or not. So and I didn't really want to take all that unnecessary damage, but Shaman was the safest play anyway, as I do predict the switch into the Lucario and I go for the Earth Power, but he decides to go into Thundurus instead, so a bit unfortunate for me, but whatever. I know I can take any one hit from this thing. As he goes to the Sludge Wave, it does around 67, so I do fire off the Seed Flare, so this thing can't come in anymore, which is pretty good for me. So I am going to go into the Klefki this time. I know he's not going to go for the Electric move, as he does reveal the HB Ice. And here I'm free to set up the light screen here, as and that's good for me because I am free to set up a Reflect if I want. But he brings in his Lucario here and takes me out the E-Speed. I did go for the Dazzling Gleam here because I didn't want him to set up, because that could be really, really bad. But yeah, he just decides to go for the safe play and goes with the E-Speed and keeps his Balloon. And I'm actually really scared of this thing at this point, because with the Balloon, of course, Garchomp's burned, Dragon Claw's not going to be doing too much anyway. The Shaman only has the Seed Flare to hit it now, so this is really scary with the Balloon. So I decided to go for the Bulk Up here, just because I knew he was either going to switch out or he wasn't going to be able to take me out anyway. So yeah, so he does decide to go into his Thundy here and sack it off. So really, really good good turn here for me, as I do set up the Bulk Up. So yeah, that's pretty nice. So he's going to go into the Crocodile here, getting the Intimidate off. I knew even if this thing wasn't Scarfed, it died. If it was Scarfed, then it took me down too low, and I just get it back up to full with Drain Punch. So yeah, it's pretty much just an easy Drain Punch here. He did switch it in just so he could get the Intimidate off, because that's kind of his only hope at this point. So he does reveal he is the Scarf, but like I said, I'm just going to Drain Punch and get all the way back up to full, or near full. And here he goes into the Darmanitan. And at this point, hold on, I do go for the Drain Punch here. We'll see what happens after that. But I do go for the Drain Punch. This was actually a 50-50 at this point, because if this thing was Scarfed, then I do take the Flare Bitch damage, and I get all the way back up to, and then I get back up to full after like the Flare Blitz recoil. And even if it went for Will-O-Wisp, it'd be locked into Will-O-Wisp, so I can just set up another Bulk Up, and then I still win anyway. So if it was Scarfed, then staying in was the play. If it was not Scarfed, which meaning if it was Life Orb or Banded, then the play would have to go into the Darm to get the Rough Skip damage off, and then bringing this back in to Drain Punch and get the guaranteed kill. The reason this was a 50-50 and why I couldn't do that was because if he was Scarf and I got the prediction wrong, then I would lose my +1 defense, and then I wouldn't be able to take a hit after that. So this was just kind of my best play, just to stay in at this point. Yeah. And he just reveals he is banded, but I get the roll. So really unfortunate for Ace there. It was about 25% chance in my favor, so it wasn't like the craziest roll in the world, but yeah, he did win the 50-50, but I was able to get the roll in my favor. So really fortunate for me, really unfortunate for him, because even though I would have been able to live the Flare Blitz, he still would be able to revenge me after that, because I wouldn't get the Drain Punch recovery because I moved first. So he was going to go for the Ice Glow Crash. Of course, I can't flinch because I'm Inner Focus, and this is pretty much just GG, because the Lucario is just going to die to a Drain Punch, and we end up winning our second ever Minors game. So yeah, 4-0. It should have been a lot closer. If he didn't get the roll there with the Darm, then I still did have a chance to win with Hoopa because I was Fizdef. However, it would have been even like more rolls, and but yeah, kind of this game really was close, a lot closer than 4-0, but really fortunate for me with that Drain Punch, but hey, I'll take it. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Next week we'll be playing Fog and the Colorado Abelugs, so look forward to that, and I will see you in the next video, and goodbye.